Do you know what the 10th Amendment means? If not, I think you should stick around for a few minutes and find out. I'm Brian, I make videos about civics and law, so please watch this video, comment, share, repost, get this video out there so people will see it. Civics videos aren't the most popular thing on YouTube. Get this stuff out there so people will see it. All right, you ready? 10th Amendment. The other day I made a video showing you how the government's laid out based on the secret map kind of hidden in the structure of the Constitution. We're going to go over that again real quick. Pow! First we have our Great Wall of Federalism. Above this wall are the 7 articles which lay out enumerated powers that the federal government can do. And up here, Articles 1, 2, and 3 show us what Congress, the President, and the Judiciary can each do. But below the wall there be dragons. South of the federalism wall are the things that the federal government cannot do. This be the realm of our 13 colonies, now states, and all of these fun people that live in them. And over here we're going to put the 10 amendments of the Bill of Rights. Now amendments 1 through 8 tell us things that the federal government can't do to the individuals in these states. Things like forcing soldiers to sleep in their house. But the other day we didn't really get to the 10th Amendment, or the 9th Amendment for that matter, but that's really its own video. Well, now it's time. The hell is my Constitution? 10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved respectively to the states or to the people. In a nutshell, the main message of the 10th Amendment is that if a power is not delegated to the federal government up here, it belongs to the states. In other words, the 10th Amendment reinforces this wall of federalism. So where's the controversy? Well, the biggest controversy that's come out of the 10th Amendment feels a little silly. Okay, these guys tell the federal government the only things they're allowed to do. And this down here tells the federal government that it's only allowed to do what it says up there. So basically they're getting the same message twice. So if the federal government starts to march south, have they violated the law when they hit the wall or when they cross the wall? Sounds a little silly, right? But when they hit the wall, they violated the articles. When they cross the wall, they violated the 10th Amendment. And who cares? Well, the dragons, I guess? The big question is, does anyone have a right of action against the federal government for a violation of the 10th Amendment? Or is the 10th Amendment just sort of a placeholder reminding people that the articles exist? For all of the 1800s, there was no right of action under the 10th Amendment, and the violation came when the federal government hit the wall. In other words, it was a violation of the articles. Then, in 1900, the court changed its mind, and suddenly the violation came when they hit the South Green. And from 1900 to 1937, there was a right of action for a violation of the 10th Amendment. But then they changed their mind again, and from 1937 to 1990, we went back across the wall. And then they changed their mind again, and in 1990, we started going back down here, and they started recognizing a right of action against the 10th. And there really hasn't been enough time yet for me to know what era we're in anymore. Are we north of the wall, south of the wall? I don't know. Does any of this matter? Let me bring up one more issue that's bothered me a little bit, because the 10th Amendment reserves powers to the states or the people. I have read so many cases in the last couple of days, and they always say, yeah, the states are the people, but then they never explain what powers are reserved to the people. And I was going crazy. Like, somebody explain to me what you mean by the people if you're not going to talk about it any further than that. All you're going to talk about are states' rights? Why even mention the people? Well, I finally have an answer. It came from one of my favorite justices, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, who's amazing, one of the best writers. And if you've stuck around this far, stick around for the rest of this, because Sandra Day O'Connor's quotes in here are really good and are worth hearing. So if you don't know, Sandra Day O'Connor was appointed by Reagan, I think, just a really interesting lady, and is one of my favorite writers on the Supreme Court over all the years. I found my answer in the Supreme Court case, New York v. United States. It's a 1992 case, and it's about burying radioactive waste, but like barely radioactive waste, like old suits that had been used near radioactive waste but weren't that radioactive. And the problem was they had to bury this stuff somewhere. Everybody agreed it had to be buried. Nobody wanted it near their house. And Sandra Day O'Connor has some amazing quotes in her opinion here, so I'm going to give you a couple of them. So neither the federal government nor the state governments wanted to be like responsible for picking the spot where the stuff was going to get buried, because it was politically super unpopular. So the state governments basically begged Congress to write a law forcing them to bury it somewhere. And Congress complied. They say, states, you have to write regulations that lay out a burial place for these pieces of stuff that need to get buried. But here's the thing. Congress is not allowed to force states to write regulations. That is a violation of federalism and the 10th Amendment. And I'm not going to break all that down. You're going to have to trust me on that. We don't have time. But the states were like, I mean, come on, we asked them to do this. And Sandra Day O'Connor's quotes explaining this are amazing. So I'm just going to read them right out of the book. So basically, Justice O'Connor is responding to the states saying, we consented to Congress overstepping the federalism wall. State officials cannot consent to the enlargement of the powers of the Congress beyond those enumerated in the Constitution. The Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. It divides power among sovereigns and among branches of government precisely so that we may resist the temptation to concentrate power in one location as an expedient solution to the crisis of the day. I love it. Sometimes the easiest thing is not the right thing. And here's where we get into the people. How can a federal statute be found an unconstitutional infringement of state sovereignty when state officials consented? The answer follows from an understanding of the fundamental purpose served by our government's federal structure. The Constitution does not protect the sovereignty of states for the benefit of the states or the state governments as abstract political entities, or even for the benefit of public officials governing the states. To the contrary, the Constitution divides authority between the federal and state governments for the protection of individuals. State sovereignty is not just an end in itself. Rather, federalism secures to citizens the liberties that derive from the diffusion of sovereign power. This whole system is the embodiment of reserving power for the individuals. It's designed to make sure that your government can't take shortcuts to get around you. As Justice O'Connor says in this opinion, I'm sure that if a federal official has the opportunity to pass the buck to a state official to deal with picking a spot to bury this stuff, I'm sure they're going to take it. And likewise, if a state official has a chance to pass the blame back up to the feds, of course they're going to take it. But political expediency does not overrule the Constitution. And the Constitution is here to protect the individuals, not the states, not the federal government, and not the people running it. So the next time you see government officials trying to find their way around the Constitution, hold them accountable. I see you guys in my comments calling out your elected officials for not following the Constitution. We have elections every 2 years, guys. That is why they are there and why they are so frequent. If not to call people out for not following the structure of the Constitution, then what? Now, generally, I tend to stay away from opinions, and you may think, ooh, Brian just broke his rule. I did not. This system is laid out intentionally. Biannual elections of members of the House is also intentional. This is how the system is designed. So all I am doing right now is explaining the layout. None of this is opinion, it's just structure. And if you pull this out and read, you'll see it right in front of you. And if you want to pull up Justice O'Connor's opinion in that case, read section 4. That's where she really gets into the kind of meat of this discussion. I'm not sure I'd ever read this opinion before today, and I was really enjoying it. So hopefully you will too. If you have any questions from what I've said, if you've read any of this stuff and have any questions, please let me know in the comments. All right, I gotta thank you guys again for sending me stuff and keeping me fed. I'm trying to keep the lights on here so I can keep doing this, but supporting me is really helping me keep going. If you'd like to support me, there are ways to do it in my link tree. Thank you, Wendy, Umberine, and Stephanie for sending me stuff. It's really, really helpful. I really appreciate it. And keep watching, guys. I'll keep making them. Thanks a lot. Things like forcing soldiers to sleep in their house. Nope. Things like forcing soldiers to sleep in their house. Nope.